Well, there you go. Love to change the world. At least we got our audio back this week, and got a little bit of progress through all the computer snafus and all the other distractions got going on. Here we go, Roger Sayles. It's a Monday, of course. It's the 22nd of January, and we have it Cyber Monday as usual. And I know we got Michael Alexander on. I'm waiting to hook up with John and Kathie, and we're going to talk about Bitclub Network today. So, well, let me just see if I can add John in here. He usually calls, but let's see if we can get him added in, and we'll get everybody online. And Michael Alexander's there because he and I were speaking right before the okay, they're calling in. So let me get rid of him here. Boy, I'll tell you, this is a technological nightmare dealing with all this stuff. John, are you there?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, John, Kathie with us?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, well, good morning, I think. I got Michael Alexander on, and he was on mute. I told him to mute out. So, Michael, if you want to mute back in, and we'll welcome you officially. So, are you still with us? Oh, Michael. Ah, boy, I'll tell you what. If life isn't a three-ring circus. Well, Michael Alexander will come with us. We talked right there before the show, and I was trying to get all of this snafu I've had going on. No, he's not with us anymore, so I guess he's going to call back. Yep, okay. Anyway, well, welcome to a very chaotic Monday, on my end anyway. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great. Great.
I was just telling Kathie the same thing. It seems like it doesn't matter when I get up and get ready to get to the show. I'm always rushing at the last minute.
Well, I'm still dealing with all these problems with a replaced hard drive on the other computer and a new computer doing the show on, and all this software that every time you turn it off, you have to go back and reset it. And I mean, it's just it's very, very taxing. Okay.
I'm singing that song in my head. Just another manic Monday. Huh?
Just another manic Monday. Can't trust that day. So anyway, I guess Michael's going to call back in. I had him right on, and then I guess we lost him as I was trying to get you guys. And so anyway, I'm supposing he's going to call right back in. I'm really happy to have Michael Alexander. I was telling him right in the minute or so we had to talk, I said, I really need to thank you for something. And he goes, oh, what's that? You know how he is. So, oh, what's that? And I said, well, the last time we had you on the program, you got me fired, and you and you caused us to go out and start this network. So thank you very much.
Yeah, he probably didn't know any about
that. He had no idea. And of course, the funny thing is, as we get bigger and this gets more viable, and at some point I'm going to drop Mr. Geo little IM on Skype, because what happened that day, just for the other listeners that might not know this, we've touched on it once or twice, but so Geo told me, remember we had our Monday that week, and we were promoting that Michael Alexander was going to be on Thursday. Well, after that Monday show, Mr. Ego got a hold of me and said, if you have another show on, you're not with us anymore. Well, I just blew it off, and I had him already scheduled, and we just ran it on Thursday. So I didn't hear from him until that Friday night at midnight when he chose to IM me and fire me through Skype because he's such a little chicken poop guy. He can't talk to anybody straight. So anyway, he chose to handle it that way, which gives you a lot of insight into Chris Ego. And so that was the whole thing right there. But then the funny thing is, we had been promoting 123bitcoin.com, which is Jim Ram's site, and Ego never listened to enough of the shows to understand that. So he gets on the following Monday on the website and goes, 123bitcoin.com is a scam. Bitcoin Network is a scam. And he puts that all over their website.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. So the knee-jerk reaction of the young and uninitiated. So Mr. Ego will learn his own lessons the hard way, which is the best way, because you never forget them. But anyway, I didn't know if anybody else understood the background on that 6 months or so ago, and the blessing that it's become for us, because it was, of course, the motivation. I would have never, ever quit that and gone, I'm going to go off and start my own network. I would have never done that. But thanks to Michael Alexander in that day, here we are, okay? You know, necessity is the mother of invention, right? So anyway, I just thought that was an interesting background, and I guess Michael will call back in a minute or two. I can't call out and get him, so he's going to have to call
doing
back.
it right now.
Okay.
Don't worry.
So anyway, we'll get him on, and for those of you who missed that faithful day back in June, Michael Alexander is just a charming guy, one of the early people in BitClub Network, one of the really successful people in BitClub Network at this point, and we're fortunate enough to be able to get him on the program again, and to also get his insight, because he travels all over the world doing this, and I think he's been involved about the total almost the whole 3 years, hasn't he, John? Do you know any more of that, or you want to wait?
Yeah, about a year later. You can let him tell the story, but he didn't jump in the boat right away. You know, these guys all knew each other.
Okay.
And then Michael decided, after they sat him down and gave him the one, you know, what's up, because he wasn't really paying attention.
Yeah, well, a lot of people in that boat. Listen, let me also say, if you guys could help me monitor something today. I was jumping up and down here last week because of this internet situation, and they had the tech guys out this morning, and they did a once-over on the whole system, and I think we're a lot faster. Okay, so but I just haven't had time to mess with it because I've had these other complications this morning. I can feel.
Well, you're coming in great.
Okay, I hear you. You're wall to wall. Yeah, you're wall to wall too. What is this? Some Skype's giving me some message here. Oh boy. Okay, so we'll get into this and see if we can get Michael on the phone and get his overview of this and get into this more.
He's calling back in.
Okay, there's an awful lot of things popping on the political scene. Of course, I'm sure everybody knows that these things are happening that are very major. And let me tell you, everything that's going on right now is good for us. Because absolutely,
I agree with that.
Anything that happens, you know, I was trying to tell the guys here and explain to them. I think we got you on with us, Michael, right?
Yes, I am back now. I could hear you before, but then it went silent, so I hung up and called back in.
Okay, it was just trying to get all this stuff hooked up, and I'm glad you called back in, and we're really pleased to have you. And I want to turn it over to you in just a second, but what I was going to try and explain to the audience here is we've got ourselves set in a position that has got to be the envy of almost anybody in the world that understands what's happening. Now, we're not the only ones. A lot of people have positioned themselves in this little middle ground, but we're in a unique position. And anything that goes wrong, and the worse it gets, the better we do. We're in a total dialectical position of everything that's going on in the world. Okay, and I'm going to tell you what, it's an enviable position to be in, and I'm just tickled to death for myself and all of us and the audience that we can incorporate into this, because we're going to ride a wave that will be the single biggest wave that's ever hit this planet in its history, as all the negative interest from this debt monetary system and all the trillions and multi-trillions of funny money they've been printing us to do their black budget and black ops stuff, that value is all going to shift over to the other side, our side, and we're right at the start. Welcome back to the Radio Ranch, Michael Alexander. Michael?
Thank you very much, Roger. I had muted so that I didn't interrupt what you were saying, and as usual, the phone was frozen. I couldn't unmute myself.
They're tricky little devils. Well, we're really glad to have you back. I told you right before the show I thanked you profusely for coming on because you got me fired and allowed us to set this whole deal up, which is going to be a lot of all of our future. Okay, now we got a vehicle, we got a platform, we're uninstructed from psychopathic owners, and we can do what we want on here. And we got big plans, and we're going to make a big impact out there. So I'm really happy to have you back on the show, Michael.
He doesn't know what happened to you, I don't think.
No, I told him right before the show briefly.
Oh, okay.
Well, and that's what propelled you forward to get down to that little paradise you're sitting in right now, didn't it?
Well, I was in process already, but it really happened at just the perfect time because I needed a couple of months or a month to pack and move and go through all that, and I couldn't have done that having a daily radio program. So everything worked out just the way it was supposed to, and a lot of it's because of you, Michael Alexander.
Hey, Michael, kind of reintroduce yourself to the people because we have an awful lot more people on here now.
Yeah, I think so. New people that didn't hear that show.
We're growing rapidly. We kind of want to give you guys your own show, you know. I tried to talk to Joe about that, but he just was too busy having fun with his cars.
Yeah, I think he now owns 9 or 10 very expensive cars. Not to mention multiple homes and flying around the world in private jets.
You know, his Rolls Royce was in the L.A. car show this year.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah, he's really dolled that thing up. He's put a lot of, not that it wasn't a nice car to begin with, but he's gone above and beyond.
Well, it was roped off. And it was there right next to the walkway, and I think that the best thing we all saw was it's a totally white vehicle, beautiful, but the license plate was the old California license plate with the black background and the yellow lettering, right? And the word was Bitcoin. It stood out right there.
Exactly. Yeah, he's real proud of that. In fact, it's better than white. It's that pearl white that reflects the light. It's just absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, that's why it looks so good. Okay. Yeah, no,
but anyway,
touch it.
Yeah, it's a good thing it was roped off because everyone does want to touch it or drive it, or at least sit in it.
Well, listen, a lot of people here are new. They've really heard us. We've been talking about Bitcoin and Bitclub primarily since you were last on. And Kathie and I have been growing by leaps and bounds with people coming to us. But you really do have a better perspective than any of us about what it is and what's going on, and I'm sure they would like to hear from you.
Yeah, I'd like for you to just start at the beginning, Michael, like you did the last time, and just give everybody your background and the course of the last couple of years in your life and what you've gleaned and what you'd like to inform us about.
Sure, I'd love to do that, but before I begin, I got to tell you, you threw me a real curveball when you picked up the phone when I called in earlier because I was unaware that you had gotten fired, and of course, when I heard that, I felt really bad and was expecting, a different response from you than what I got. Instead, I got all this thank you. But it goes to illustrate, how uninformed and uneducated the masses are when it comes to what's happening in the cryptocurrency realm. But as it turned out, it was actually a positive thing for you. It fit right into your plans, and so certainly glad to hear that. Again, the audience, many of them may already have a good foundation in what we're going to talk about on your show today, but probably most of them are just beginning to wake up, just beginning to find out or hear about this, and are hungry for more information. And so starting from the beginning is always usually the best place, especially if you have a mixed audience. So I do ask those of you that have been in this space for a while, like I've been, that are more informed, better informed, that you just be patient with us so that we can help all those that are just beginning to wake up, I think is probably a good way to put it, because a lot of people have been frankly unaware. And I count myself in that group as well. I mean, when I was first approached with Bitcoin so many years ago, it really did not make total sense to me, but what was shared with me made me think, and then some of the information that was available at that time was a lot of misinformation, because the establishment was putting out a lot of misdirection, misinformation, negative comments. And of course, most people, they don't know what's fake news and what's real. And unfortunately, I was a victim of fake news, and so therefore formed the wrong opinions. I drew the wrong conclusions, and it made me skeptical, to say the least. And so I discounted what was shared with me so many years ago. Of course, I regret it, because if I'd gotten involved in this back in 2011, 2012, or 2013, I'd be in even better shape than I already am. Not to discount the blessings that this space has given me over the last few years, but like everyone else on the call that begins to find out and learn, we all wished we'd have got in sooner. But I tell you, after even your first year in this space, with the tremendous increase in value and the opportunities that Bitclub Network, which we're going to talk about, represents, you'll be so glad that you finally took action. And I hope for those of you that are trying to get to the point of decision so that you will take action, will take away from the show today the information that you need to really better understand and appreciate what we have in front of us here, because we are among the very select and privileged people to be aware of this. In fact, I'll tell you a short story that's kind of funny, but it's literally what caused me to finally stop and listen and really dive into what we're going to be talking about here today. And my friends, who were the original founders that started Bitclub Network so long ago, so many years ago, sat me down and said, Michael, if you were to find out that some of the richest, most powerful people in the world were involved in something and investing their wealth into something, wouldn't you want to know what it was that they were pursuing? And that made a lot of sense to me. And then they went on to add, and what if you also found out that multi-billion-dollar name brand companies were also involved in pursuing this? Would that give you even more cause to pay attention and investigate? I said, absolutely. And they said, what if also you found out that the banks, especially the major banks, were also involved in pursuing this path? Wouldn't you want to find out more? And they didn't stop there. Then they said, and what if you found out governments who originally resisted, the banks and governments originally resisted, but if you can't beat them, we all know you do what? You join them. And what if you found out the governments were also, wouldn't you want to investigate? Well, the obvious answer is only yes, of course I would. And then they teased me by saying, you mean you didn't get your invitation to the champagne and caviar party on their yachts? Of course not. They were talking about blockchain technology, and in particular Bitcoin. And, I then finally began to open up my mind and really find out what's real, and separated what's real from what's not real, what's fake, what's propaganda. And am I so glad that I did, because it has not only changed my life, but it's allowed me to change so many other people's lives, to help people in less than 2 years earn over $1 million a month. And here's the interesting thing. The $1 million plus a month. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of money to many of you that may be hearing this for the first time, but you'll better understand how so many people are earning that level of income or greater, and how that truly is just a fraction of what they're really earning. Let me illustrate it this way. If we were to just go back in time, just 12 months, back to January of 2017, I was telling my friends back then, you should get involved in Bitcoin mining. At the very least, if you don't understand and want to take the time to find out what Bitcoin mining is all about, at least buy Bitcoin. Have any of us ever been told to buy gold or to buy any asset class that could go up in value? Of course we have. And so I was telling them, look, you need to buy Bitcoin because I'm connected to an inner circle and have information that I can virtually guarantee that we're going to see in the next 12 months the price of Bitcoin grow by 10 times its present day value. Now, when you go back in time, back to January of 2017, folks, if you don't know this already, you can go back and check and verify this. By the way, everything we talk about today that I say, you can check and verify and document. You don't have to take my word or anybody's word for any of this information. But if you go back, you'll see that Bitcoin hit an all-time high back in January of 2017 when it hit $1,000 a coin. Now, if it went up in value 10 times, if you had bought one or more coins, you could have turned 1,000, one coin, into 10,000 this past year. The reality is certain things happened that we were not absolutely certain were going to happen last year or if they were going to happen this year. So lo and behold, before the end of 2017, Bitcoin hit a new all-time high of roughly $20,000 a coin, a 20-time increase in value. So I ask you, if you had listened and done just a little due diligence to educate yourself, how many Bitcoin would you have purchased? Or how many do you think you would have purchased? Or I'll put it another way. If I had a time machine and we could go back to January of last year, and you now know where the price of Bitcoin was going to land in 2017. Now, there's been a period of consolidation, so let me just say up front, if you check the price of Bitcoin today, you'll see that it's not selling for $20,000 a coin currently, and that always happens, by the way. If you go back over the 9-year history, you'll see that Bitcoin has gone up, and then there's been a period of consolidation. It's gone down because whenever a new all-time high is set, guess what happens? People take profits. They sell. And if you have a lot of people selling, it's going to take the price down. And when the price goes down, it triggers a lot of people buying, not to mention people discovering what's available in this space, in this industry. And so they start buying. The rate of adoption has just been mind-boggling, but it's nothing compared to what we're going to see this year and in the years ahead. But the bottom line is, if I had that time machine and you went back in time and you knew you could have bought Bitcoin for under $1,000 a coin just 12 months ago, and you could have sold it at its all-time high of 20,000, how many coins would you have bought? How many coins do you wish you could have bought? Because maybe you didn't have enough disposable income to buy as many as you'd want. But I think the answer is obvious. We would all have bought all that we could have. In fact, I have people ask me all the time, you know, how much should I invest into Bitcoin mining, or if they're looking to just buy and hold, which is a great strategy, how many should I buy? Well, I'll share with you what my answer is, because I don't know people's circumstances. I don't know how much they can afford to put into this, and I don't know what kind of return they want to receive. But here's my answer. As much as you can, and find a happy medium between nervous and can't sleep at night. Because I've been doing this for a while, and I've invested considerably. We won't get into specifics, but you know, I've invested considerably and continue to invest considerably every month into Bitcoin mining. And as I look back, my wife and I regret that we didn't do more. And so we keep investing more and more. Of course, our income has, you know, our Bitcoin earnings have gone up and up. But, you know, when I come back to what I was talking about, by helping individuals earn, you know, literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in Bitcoin every month, some that are earning over $1 million a month in Bitcoin. Imagine earning $1 million worth of Bitcoin in January of last year.
Holy
and
smokes.
What did you really earn? Was it $1 million or was it really $20 million?
Holy smokes. You're playing with our minds.
Well, that is the opportunity that's in front of us, because we're going to continue to see, you know, Bitcoin go up and up, and I'll get into that and address that. But But let's go back and give folks a little bit of history on what really Bitcoin is and what it represents. And then we'll talk also about Bitcoin mining. And then also why, if you're going to get involved in mining Bitcoin, there is no other company that you should be working with to mine Bitcoin other than Bitclub Network. And I will explain why that's the case. I guarantee to everyone satisfaction and delight. But Bitcoin to begin with, for those of you that are just beginning to learn about Bitcoin, the best way to sum up what Bitcoin is it's internet money. It is a great store of value, which is how it really began back in the early years as a store of value that people recognized, who believed that it could be revolutionary, game-changing, and that the value could go nowhere but up. It's also referred to, obviously, as digital money. And let's face it, we live in a digital world today. You know, sometimes I ask people if they remember a time, and unless they're just kids, most of us as adults remember a time when we were not using the internet. Maybe you remember a time based on how old you are. If you're as old as me, you remember a time when you didn't own a computer either. And so in our lifetimes, we've seen the world change dramatically. And technology is responsible for, you know, I think improving the world of communication, the world of business, and so much, much more. But obviously, if we live in a digital world, because there was a time when you never sent or received an email, because you didn't even know what an email was or an email account was until someone introduced it to you. And what is email? It's a digital letter, isn't it? You do remember the time before digital cameras when we used to put film in a camera, take our pictures, and then have to run to a store to try to get those pictures developed? You know, and that's been a relatively short period of time, not that long ago. And so more and more, everything is becoming digitized. So why shouldn't our money? I mean, the last revolution in money, because you go back in time, they were trading seashells. And then they were trading potatoes for tomatoes and so on. And then they began trading, you know, gold and silver. And it hasn't been so many centuries ago that the banks and governments tried to convince the population to give up their gold and silver and start using their money, you know, their coins, their paper. And it literally took over 400 years for that to become adopted in mainstream. And of course, in the world we live in today, you can't go down and buy a Whopper at Burger King with a bar of gold. You know, we're using, you know, cash to do that. Or more recently, the last money revolution before the digital age arrived was credit cards. And frankly, what an archaic way of doing business. There is so much fraud and cost associated with that. And I'm just speaking from experience because I've had my credit card, you know, stolen or my account compromised many, many, many times. It's not safe and secure as a means of exchange. And the reality is most people can't even qualify for a credit card anyway. Whereas with Bitcoin, with digital cryptocurrency, anybody can set up an account. I refer to my Bitcoin wallet as my private bank account. I can use that to send or receive with anyone in the world without any third-party involvement. I don't have to use PayPal or Western Union or banks or any of those means that we've relied on in the past and paid high fees for, because now you can have a Bitcoin wallet and literally send to anyone, anywhere in the world that has a Bitcoin wallet in a fraction of the time and for a fraction of the cost without any no's in your business. And so it's no wonder that people are recognizing and adopting this as a preferred method, which is safe and secure. Now, we'll talk about how and why it's safe and secure in just a moment. But that's, folks, just a brief, elementary explanation of what's going on with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. However, before I jump into how it's protected and how safe and secure it is, I want to also warn you to be careful, because there are so many fake scam coins out there and fake scam companies out there. And people that don't know what they don't know, unfortunately, many have become victims. And when you look at the fact that there's more than 1,000 of these digital tokens out there, it's no wonder that people are confused and can sometimes be so easily taken advantage of. And let me illustrate it this way, because I ask people that are, beginning to understand if they know what was the first digital coin. And most people think it was Bitcoin, but it was not. There were digital coins before Bitcoin, and they failed miserably. They're no longer around, haven't been around for a long time. There's been digital coins after Bitcoin that have also failed miserably. Some even just recently. They just come and go all the time, and we're going to continue to see them come and go because there's always people out there that want to cheat you or defraud you, take advantage of you. So I'm just cautioning you to be careful and to educate yourself. And if you don't know, ask, because there is, so much information available if you just go for it. It used to be we went to the library. Today we can find out stuff easily with the click of a mouse. But you got to be careful about some of the stuff that's on the internet, because just because it's on the internet doesn't make it true. You've got to really dig and get down to the bottom, the nitty gritty, and verify and validate and document this stuff. Now, I tell people that, based on what I just shared, can you tell me why Bitcoin survived? Why did Bitcoin become so trusted? Why did Bitcoin become so popular? Why is it the king of the hill? Why is it that it has more market share than all the other, by the way, few legitimate cryptocurrencies, not to mention all of the ones that are not legitimate? Bitcoin still has the majority of the market share. And it's very simple, folks. Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency. There is a big difference between a digital fake coin that they miraculously create out of thin air that has no value and never will, other than maybe temporary value that can be created, just like with the stock market. Stocks can be pumped and dumped, and unfortunately a lot of people get hurt. These fake digital coins can be pumped and dumped because no one's going to trust them. Why do people trust Bitcoin? Because it is a cryptocurrency. It is encrypted. It is supported and protected through the blockchain technology, which is an algorithm, and we have a distributed network of literally hundreds of millions of computers. That's where we get into talking about mining, because we have a global network of Bitcoin miners that are securing and protecting the network. They're the ones responsible for verifying and validating and confirming and documenting on the public blockchain every single Bitcoin transaction. And it requires a minimum of 51% consensus among all of these miners and this massive number of computers that are part of this distributed network. And also Bitcoin, unlike these fake tokens, Bitcoin is decentralized as opposed to a centralized network or platform. Now, here's the difference, because most people don't even know what I'm talking about when I say decentralized versus centralized. Decentralized means no one, no person, no group of people, no company, no corporation, no bank, no government, no one can control it or manipulate it. It is something that was brought to market thanks to Satoshi Nakamoto and his team. If you go back in time before January of 2009 and read that white paper, of course, back at that time, the only people that paid attention or probably, frankly, even understood all that technical jargon were the techno geeks in the world, certainly above my pay grade. I don't fully understand how to code and all that goes on, but I've come to understand it far better than I used to, because I've been fortunate enough to have people show me and explain it to me and teach me and educate me, and it's just marvelous what was brought to market, because Bitcoin is actually an application of the blockchain technology, which is now being used globally by companies like De Beers. If you've heard of De Beers, you probably own diamonds, because they are the biggest and most respected supplier in the world of diamonds. And they use blockchain technology to register, secure, and protect their diamonds. It's also used in real estate, and it's used, I mean, we could spend hours just talking about blockchain technology and its many uses and applications and how that has revolutionized and will continue to revolutionize the world we live in so many ways. But the people that are a part of the mining network, the miners that are securing and protecting the network through the algorithm that comprises or makes up the blockchain, they're rewarded for all of that work and the major investment required to even get into Bitcoin mining, which is a lot different today than it used to be. Because as more people are using Bitcoin and more companies are accepting Bitcoin, creating more and more transactions, it increases automatically by design its level of difficulty. And the level of difficulty as it increases requires more and more mining power, computing power. It's called the hash rate, to actually solve the mathematical algorithmic problems. Literally, trillions and trillions of mathematical calculations are occurring through this distributed network of the supercomputers every minute. It's a mad race to solve that every block. A new block is created about every 10 minutes. If it takes longer than 10 minutes to solve the math, the difficulty does decrease, but it also increases if it's solved in less than 10 minutes. And this is all automatically done. And this is what's securing and protecting. Now, we talked briefly about this being a threat to the establishment and why, they would want to stop it. And they've tried. And at the very least, the best they've done is slow it down through their misinformation and propaganda that they've spread. But the reality is we have over 200 documented cases where the establishment has tried to hack the blockchain, which has never happened and never will, especially nowadays, the level of difficulty. Now, that doesn't even take into account all the attempts that are undocumented. And so we have something here that over these 9 years has been tested thoroughly, which has increased people's confidence. It's obviously increased their belief in this. And when people's belief, their faith, their trust, their confidence goes up, more and more people are going to use, which is continuing to drive the price up. The other thing that affects the value proposition or the value of Bitcoin is the fact that there's a finite supply, like there's a finite supply of gold and diamonds and so forth. There's a finite supply of Bitcoin. And it actually, the rewards have, and that means that the rewards that are paid to the miners every block decreases every 210,000 blocks. When Bitcoin was first mined or given as a reward for the mining pools that were securing and protecting the network, it was 50 coins per block.
Yikes. Then
it halved the start of 2013, and it went to 25. Then the last time it halved, which was in July of last year, it actually went down to, of 2016, it actually went down to 12.5. It will have again around approximately 2 years from now, a little more than 2 years from now. It'll halve again. It'll go to 6.25. And then when it halves after the next 210,000 blocks, it'll go down to obviously 3 1/8, down to 1.5, and so on. And so with a diminishing supply and a finite supply that will ever be in existence, that is a major factor in determining price, the law of supply and demand. If there's more people that want Bitcoin, which is what's happening, every people want it, but there's less and less available because I don't sell my Bitcoin. Maybe you don't sell your Bitcoin, or when you start accumulating them, you won't want to sell them, because if you know even a fraction of what I know, you're going to hang on to those Bitcoin for dear life as you see the value increase. Now, of course, the question that's often asked when people are discovering this is, well, how in the world could, only 21 million service, the world? Well, there's many reasons for that. Here's the first thing I'd like to say about that. Each Bitcoin is divisible by 100 million microbits, or sometimes called satoshis. Now, a dollar, we all know, is divisible by 100 pennies. but a Bitcoin is divisible by 100 microbits. That means if 1 microbit today, it's not, but if today 1 microbit was valued at 1 penny, what would a Bitcoin be worth now? $1 million. And in the not too distant future, you'll see the price of Bitcoin go to 1 million plus. And so when you factor in 21 million times 100 million, we got a long ways to go, but the reality is that it's already based on its current value. People are buying things for fractions of a Bitcoin, not a whole Bitcoin. They're buying for a fraction. I mean, just look at where we're at today. Roughly 16 million plus have already been mined. There's more millionaires than that in the United States. If they all wanted 1 Bitcoin, what would the value be worth? Or another way to look at it, the people that have access to mainstream media, call them fortunate enough to live in the civilized world. We have approximately, now these are not my statistics, I'm sharing another source's statistics, and I don't know exactly how they arrived at this, so hear this with, a grain of salt, but they estimate that those people that have access to mainstream media that have heard about Bitcoin is about 88% of the people, not 88% of the world population. We're talking about 88% of the people that are tuning in. And of those 88%, roughly 2% actually own any Bitcoin. So let me ask you this question. If 3% wanted to own Bitcoin, or 4% or 5%, what would happen to the price of Bitcoin? It's going to go up, isn't it? And that's why as we look forward, a realistic, conservative projection as to what the price of Bitcoin could be at this year, conservatively, 40 to 50,000 a coin. In fact, I was just having a conversation earlier this morning where some documentation was given to me that basically estimates us hitting that price as early as September of this year. Now, there's other people that are more optimistic. I tend to underpromise and be conservative in my estimations or in managing my personal expectations. But there's many out there that'll tell you that we'll probably see the price of Bitcoin go over 100,000 a coin this year. Either way, if you had some Bitcoin, you'd have a smile on your face before this coming Christmas, which is still 11 months away.
It makes
so I hope you take this. Sorry?
I hate to interrupt you, but I want to say it certainly makes your days brighter. And I wanted to add something on what you were saying a second ago. I saw an amazing statistic. It came out of an article on Zero Hedge, I think last week before last. Do you know how many people on the globe have a Bitcoin wallet?
Do I?
Yeah.
I haven't seen the most recent statistic, but I know just Coinbase alone has, a multitude of millions of people that have a Bitcoin wallet. But obviously, that's a mere fraction of the world's population. But please share that. I want to hear.
The article stated, it didn't say where it got its figure. There's only 300 million people in the world that have a Bitcoin wallet, and the vast majority of them, unlike Charles Schwab, have less than $1,000 in it. That's a startling statistic.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. The last time I was looking at those statistics, it was a little less, but with the number of people that are opening up wallets every day, it could easily be 300 million or more, which is just a mere fraction. And you're right, most people don't even own a whole Bitcoin. It's just a fraction of a Bitcoin. 1,000 is less than 10% of a Bitcoin.
Pretty amazing statistic. Anyway, the opportunity we have in front of us, Michael, I'm an opportunist. I've been pretty successful in this life in a number of different areas because I'm an opportunist. And an opportunity comes along, I evaluate it. If it makes sense, I seize it and I put 100% into it. Okay, and that's been a real key to success for me. I've never seen an opportunity like this ever. I mean, not just BitClub Network, the entire space, but especially this, because you can, as you said earlier, buy a Bitcoin and hold it. Fantastic. God bless you. Smart move. And you can have the golden egg, or you can have the goose that lays the golden egg. Which would you prefer?
That's a great analogy. Obviously, everyone understands the value of a golden egg, but much better to have the goose that keeps laying golden eggs, right?
Yep, sure seems like that to me.
And I use a similar analogy when people, ask me that question. Why would I get involved in Bitcoin mining, versus just buying and holding Bitcoin? I tell them, look, either way, you're good. There's nobody that knows anything about Bitcoin or blockchain technology that would tell you any differently. They would all tell you buying, Bitcoin is, a smart thing to do. Another statistic I'll just drop on the audience is if you had invested $10,000 back in Bitcoin, roughly 7 or 8 years ago versus the same amount of money in gold, the gold would have increased in value less than $1,000. 10,000 into 1,000, 10% return, not bad. Obviously that's a better return than what you're going to get on your money if you just opened a bank account that drew interest. That's better. And gold is going to continue to go up in value. That's great. But if you had invested the same amount of money in Bitcoin, you would be sitting on tens of millions of dollars of profit.
And I heard Robbie was a guy that was an icon in our patriot movement, Michael. People in the audience, many of them will recognize his name's Robbie Noel. I understand he's left us now, unfortunately. He was South African. And I used to listen to his financial show every night, okay? And I remember I was just moved to Argentina. I'm sitting there listening that night, and he's talking about Bitcoin. It's the first time I ever heard about it. I remember it vividly. And I said, nah, that'll never. But my problem is I've got gold. And you got to go out and liquidate gold to do stuff like that. Okay? And so that is the one wonderment that I have found on this side in the cyber is how, here, let me put it another way. Gold has very little utility. The word that I've seized on to explain it is utility. Okay, it's got value. It's going to rise in value. Oh, I bought it when it was Brown's bottom, less than $300 an ounce. I've done well. But man, if I'd have put that same thing into this, holy smokes, it just boggles the imagination.
Totally agree with that. Totally agree. Well, obviously, from what we've talked about thus far, I know we have a limited amount of time, so I have to try to use that as wisely as we can because we could spend so much more time on what we've touched on so far. But I think even the people that are just beginning to discover what's been going on around them that they were unaware of have probably heard enough that they're going to be motivated to really research and determine for themselves, why this is so smart. Whether they buy it or they get involved in Bitcoin mining. In terms of Bitcoin mining, to be specific, I've been buying these Bitcoin mining contracts with BitClub every month for quite a long time now. But to put things in perspective, if you look at a contract that I bought a year ago, I was able to buy that contract a year ago for roughly 3 Bitcoin. Now, if I had just bought the 3 Bitcoin, I'd still have just 3 Bitcoin. But instead, I invested it into Bitcoin mining. And over the course of this past year, that's generated for me roughly 3 Bitcoin. Now, there's no absolute number that over the course of the next 12 months that we can actually, and even if we could, we'd want to be careful about guaranteeing results because you can't do that. And I tell people that, these companies that are guaranteeing, first of all, ridiculous returns, that's a flashing neon sign that that's a scam because they're just totally unrealistic. But even if the numbers were real and the math worked, the fact that they're guaranteeing these returns is absolutely 100% illegal. So you're never going to hear me or anyone else in BitClub Network tell you that there's any guarantee to begin with. Not only is it illegal, but second, based on the level of difficulty and how many people are mining and how lucky you get as to whether or not you solve the math or not, means that the returns day to day, week to week, month to month is going to vary. There is no absolute. But what you can do is take historical data over the past month, 6 months, or a year, and you can come up with a median average. And for me, I generated almost as many Bitcoin with mining in 1 year as I did as what I would have been holding had I just bought them. However, with BitClub Network, here's the difference. First of all, we're the only Bitcoin mining pool that shares 100% of what we mine with the pool of individuals that are mining with BitClub Network. 100% of what we mine, the Bitcoin that we mine, is pro rata shared amongst all the members. That gives me, obviously, joy and satisfaction, peace of mind and comfort. But also, we're the only ones that automatically, without you having to do anything, will reinvest a small percentage of your daily Bitcoin rewards, because we get paid daily. It goes in your wallet daily. You can take it out and convert it to cash and spend it if you need to pay bills. I encourage you, try to avoid that. Hold on to those Bitcoin. Keep them in a safe place, and we'll hopefully have time to talk about how you can, best protect your wallet or your Bitcoins. But the reality is that we're the only ones that auto repurchase. So at the end of the year, not only had I earned Bitcoin, it had automatically repurchased, because it takes about 14, 15 months, depending on how you, set up your settings. But that's a general time frame to earn a second Bitcoin mining contract. Now, here's the thing about that. If you had 2 Bitcoin mining contracts, that's better than 1, because going forward, you're going to be generating twice as many daily Bitcoins or fractions of Bitcoins as you would if you only had 1. And you didn't have to come out of pocket to buy the second mining contract. And so I'm much better off, the way I see it, getting the return that I got and automatically expanding my Bitcoin mining shares to earn more going forward. And also, when you have 2 mining shares, now you have double the repurchasing power, which means that you could earn your 3rd mining contract in approximately half the time it took to earn the 2nd one, and so on. Now, the 1st one will eventually expire after 1,000 days, but with the auto repurchase, you are always never needing to come out of pocket any money. No monthly fees, no annual fees, none of that stuff. Your number of Bitcoin mining shares are increasing, so you're going to get paid in perpetuity. Imagine what Bitcoin, based on what we've been talking about, what the price of Bitcoin could be, at the end of this year or in 2 years, let alone in 5 to 10 years, because most people believe in a lot less time than 10 years, we could see Bitcoin go over $1 million a coin. So obviously, I would rather get paid every day for the rest of my life and be able to will it or leave it behind to whom I choose to leave it to, and hopefully they will always remember me fondly for doing so. But that's the reality of the business model with BitClub Network. And we set it up in such a way that people could participate. Now, what are some of the other reasons that you would choose BitClub Network as opposed to some of the other mining pools that are out there? Is because when you look at who is the most successful, BitClub Network has the distinction of being recognized as one of the top mining pools and the fastest growing mining pool because of the business model that I'm going to elaborate on just a little bit further. But in terms of our computing power today, we're one of the biggest Bitcoin mining pools. Now, our partners, have more computers and a more computing power than we do. Our first partner that we began with was Bitmain, who manufactures the best Bitcoin mining equipment, and we've been buying from them and buy literally every machine they have available. That's why you can't buy any from them, especially with the new machines with the new 16-nanometer chips, because we buy them all and we prepay for them a year in advance. And at the rate we're growing, as people are discovering us, we need even more equipment, which is why over a year ago, we also got into GPU mining, which is mining other legitimate cryptocurrencies such as Ethereum and Zcash, just to mention a few. Obviously, we have nothing to do and will never have anything to do with these fake digital coins, but we're mining legitimate coins. as well as Bitcoin. So what should you mine? Well, I think you should mine both. GPU mining rigs as well as Bitcoin mining rigs. That's what I do. I buy about 50-50. Half of the money that I buy or use Bitcoin for to buy the contracts, because we only accept Bitcoin in and Bitcoin out. And so, whether you choose one over the other or you choose both, both are an advantage. But when you look at the size of us, here in the not too distant future, with what's already been purchased and is being brought online, we'll have in excess of 1,200 petahash. Now, petahash is a number or a term that most people have never heard of, but it represents a lot of computing power. When you look at all of the mining rigs, the amount of computing power currently online, it's roughly, the last time I checked, about 8,000 petahash. And we're already, when the machines that are being installed right now are fully online, will be at over 1,200 petahash. With what we've already purchased that will be coming online throughout the course of this year, we'll be probably way north of 2,000 petahash before the end of this year. Now, obviously, that would represent about 20%, roughly, of the entire mining power, mining Bitcoin in the world today. That's how significant we are. But when you look at the other big mining pools that we do business with and are partnered with, I call them selfish is one way to describe it, because you can't mine with them. They won't let you have any of their Bitcoins. They keep them all for themselves. But that's not how Bitclub Network was set up. That's not how we've operated, nor is it how we're going to operate going forward, because we set everything up as a cooperative enterprise. And as a co-op, we, the members that are buying these mining contracts, we own Bitclub Network. That's why it's 100% payout to those of us that have been fortunate enough to discover this and get involved. And everyone that's gotten involved has been so ecstatic as they watch how this unfolds for them, especially after a little time passes, whether it's only 6 months or a year. Those of us that have been mining for years, obviously, we've had the experience, the fortunate positive experience even longer than the many that have joined us in just the last 12 months. But this last year has been a true game changer. And I want to address that just a little bit for a moment, Roger, to help people understand something that is really very, very significant. And the reason I want to address this, Roger, is because a lot of people think they missed the boat. They think, wow, I should have gotten involved with Bitcoin years ago or mining years ago. And the reality is that couldn't be further from the truth. And there's reasons for that, one of which I already talked about, which is really, truly how many people are involved in Bitcoin in relation to how many people there are in the world. And, of course, Roger, you shared that only about 300 million even have a Bitcoin wallet. You see, when I first got started, Bitcoin was not in the mainstream media. It wasn't being talked about in a positive light when I got started. In fact, it was very seldom even mentioned, and usually when it was, it was on at least the borderline of being less than positive, but that's the news media for you. But what we've seen in the past year is it seems like every day I see something somewhere in the news that is reporting blockchain technology and Bitcoin in a positive light, which is why people have started to wake up. Nowadays, when I talk to people, most people in my circles have heard of Bitcoin. They may not know much about it, but they've at least heard of it. And so as a result, I found it much easier to get involved with someone in dialogue, have intelligent communication with people, because when I first started, most people had never heard of it, and if they had, it was a negative for them, like it was for me when I was first approached by my friends about Bitclub Network. My point is this: we're only at the tip of the iceberg, and it's getting easier and easier to talk to people and share what we have with people, and they get it. which is good for anyone that's just getting started because it's all relative. I mean, yeah, everybody would like to have bought Bitcoin when I started for $250 a coin, or even 500, or for that matter, even a year ago for 1,000. But here's the reality. People are going to be saying that a year from now, oh, wow, I wish I could have got involved with Bitcoin when you could have bought it for 10,000, 11,000, 12,000, 15,000, or 20,000 a coin. Of course. But the reality is that this is the path we're on, and it's just going to continue to get better and better. Don't be among those unfortunate that are going to look back with regrets. In fact, I quote something that Sir Richard Branson, who happens to also be one of our other partners through his company BitFury, that he said recently publicly. And maybe you also saw this, but he said, if you don't get involved with Bitcoin, you will regret it. And what more can you say? I mean, that sums it up.
Let me tell you.
Hopefully you already realize that.
Let me tell you an experience I had yesterday. I live down in Ecuador now, outside of Quito, and got some friends in town. My friends from Argentina. Signed him up, by the way. You will hear his name in the future. You'll know who he is, okay? So we've been spending about a week together, and they wanted to go down yesterday. There's a beautiful botanical gardens in a huge park in downtown Quito, and I've been wanting to go the whole 6 months I've been here so far, and I hadn't had a chance, and they wanted to go, so I said, let's go. So we went down there, spent a couple hours in there, and we saw another American couple. You could hear them talking English, And so at one point there towards the end, we kind of crossed paths and we started talking, and they were down visiting. They said, oh, this is our first trip into South America. And I said, well, boy, you hit the jackpot. You hit the right place. And so the guy goes, well, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm telling him about my political stuff. And I said, I also do Bitcoin. And I'm telling you, the guy lit up. His physical change, his eyes got big. He said, how long have you been involved? I mean, his whole demeanor changed. And I flipped him a card. I said, you need to look at this, give me a call, etc., etc. I just did it real light because it wasn't the time or the place necessarily, but he was real interested. And it was quite an experience for me to see his physical change the minute I mentioned Bitcoin. They were from Maryland.
Yeah, I got to second that because I've had so many similar experiences. As a matter of fact, even yesterday, I was waiting to board my flight, and I got a phone call, and so the conversation, needless to say, most of my conversations center around, guess what? Bitcoin.
Not the weather.
And, the gentleman that was sitting behind me, also waiting for the same flight, patiently waited till I got off the call, and he said, I sorry to disturb you, but I couldn't wait for your call to end because I heard you talking about Bitcoin. He said, I'm a college professor, and I teach my students in my finance courses about Bitcoin. And it's amazing, how little, if any, they know about Bitcoin and how they change. He says, but I heard you talking about mining Bitcoin and Bitclub Network. What is that? So needless to say, we had a fantastic conversation, which led to his requesting information so that he could enroll. And when he found out that he could actually share that with his students, needless to say, we have a new member in Bitclub Network.
You got a new mega monster, it sounds like. Let me give you a time gauge here. We got about a little over 50 minutes. So to gauge what all we want to do, and we can take calls from our callers if they've got really important questions, but I want you to be able to cover everything you want to cover in this time we got remaining. So that's why I wanted to inject that.
Okay, well, I was about to ask you that question because when you wind me up and get me started,
I can tell.
It's hard to get a word in edgewise. You have to wait till I take a breath, right?
Yeah, I was hoping you'd have to take a breath in a minute.
Yeah, I do apologize.
No problem. You don't have to apologize one bit. We're loving it. Just roll on. Roll on, man.
We're levitating over here.
Well, in case everyone hasn't figured it out yet, I'm very passionate about what I do. And it's because it's been so game-changing, not only for us, but so many other people. And even though I am so done, I mean, I was already retired and living in Bali when my friends tried to, get me to pay attention. So I wasn't looking for another project, but they persisted, thank God. And originally, I was only going to get involved to just earn passive residual income. So let's talk about BitClub Network for a moment with regards to what that represents for our listeners today, because many people get involved like I did when I first started, because I wasn't looking for another project. I've been very successful in the direct sales industry as well as in the finance industry, investment banking. We've done big projects. So we've done well. We've worked hard, my wife and I, and we've done well. And we were able to retire at an early age, because you don't have to reach a certain age to retire if you do well. And so that's where I was when this was brought to me. But I was smart enough to realize that, I should get involved in Bitcoin mining, put the money to work, earn the passive residual income, but I didn't plan to talk to anyone about it. And lo and behold, as a little time, and I mean very little time went by, and I saw how real this was, and I kept increasing my knowledge of what was happening in this world around me that I had been ignoring, I did have to start talking to people. And it just was amazing, how quickly a team began to form and develop that has just exploded with people making the kind of money that they do. And I'm just so happy to be working with everyone around the world, in particular this team. Thank you, again, for giving me an opportunity and a platform to share some of this information for those people that are going to take it to heart and take action. Eventually, I guarantee you everyone on this call will, and hopefully all will immediately. They won't have any regrets for not taking action, or at least taking the steps to educate themselves further so they can make intelligent, objective decisions. But people do get involved with BitClub Network like I did, just for the passive residual income side of this. They just want to mine Bitcoin. It's on automatic pilot, and they're with, in my opinion, the best. The world agrees. We have so many third-party validation that we're definitely one of the best in this field of mining Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, and that's easy to document. But for those people that might be interested in more than just passive residual income from the mining of Bitcoin and the increasing value of those Bitcoins, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
I have a call coming in. I thought I dropped my call and you were calling me back in. That's why I stopped.
We've got so many beeps and interruptions anymore. That's okay. Don't worry about it. I just want you to get your passion and your experience and your foresight and insight over to the audience today, because we'll be using this tape. John and Kathie will put it on their Facebook page. We'll send it out. It's a very excellent to this point overview for anybody in this field that's looking at this, because this is a no-brainer when you get the facts, your arms around them. I mean, it's just a no-brainer.
I couldn't agree more. So let's spend the time we have remaining just talking about how a person could get involved. And then if you want to open it up for some Q&A, I think we'll have time for that also.
Okay. Just roll on, Michael. Okay. Roll on.
So for those of you that might be interested in more, first of all, the person that invited you on the call can help you get yourself involved with BitClub Network as, a miner of Bitcoin. But there is also an opportunity beyond that passive residual income from mining Bitcoin if you are going to talk about this or share this with other people. We are compensated and paid in Bitcoin, and that obviously increases your stockpile of Bitcoin if you do talk to people. And you can earn up to an 8% direct commission on any Bitcoin mining contracts of the people that you enroll in the BitClub Network. So that's one area of the compensation plan. We actually get paid many other ways, which include a binary structure, meaning that you could build a team, even if you only sponsor 2 people. And with having 2 people, which Obviously, that's what binary is denoting, is 2 or more, because you can obviously share it with more than 2, but they would have to come under the first 2 that you shared it with, as you could very likely find yourself the recipient of people showing up in your genealogy, in your business. And by the way, that volume all counts, whether you introduce the person or someone above you introduced the person and they show up in your genealogy, in your business, in your tree. I hope I'm not using terms that are too unfamiliar to some people, but it's in your sales team. And based on the volume that you have in your left and right sales team, which is counted, by the way, to infinity, you can earn very, very substantial income from that. You can earn up to $2,400 a day, which is what I'm earning as a mega monster with BitClub Network. Now, I've built multiple positions at the top level, and some of those positions are paying $2,000 a day. Some are paying $1,600 a day. Some are paying $1,200 a day, and so on. So depending upon how big a business or over whatever period of time, the volume that you generate from just sharing this information can be very significant in terms of earning overrides. Because as a mega monster, that $2,400 a day is actually paid in Bitcoin. So if you were earning $2,400 a day, say in January of last year, that $2,400 worth of Bitcoin today would be worth almost $30,000. So were you really earning $2,400 or were you really earning $30,000? And what would that be worth a year from now? Obviously it could be the equivalent of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And who knows if you want to look forward in terms of what the future value is. Now, the key is, don't spend your Bitcoin or don't convert it into worthless fiat currency. Hold on to as many Bitcoin as you can. You'll be glad you did. Now, in addition to that, you can earn in other ways, and my favorite by far is what's called check match. By helping other people make checks in this binary pay plan, every time they get paid, I get paid. And the same will happen for you because we all have exactly the same pay plan. I actually get paid far, far, far more money off check match than I do. Well, actually, I only get paid money. I get paid in Bitcoin, which is better than money. But the check match can literally pay you substantially more. As a mega monster, I get check match down through 10 levels. And if you've ever, drawn out the geometric progression of 2 who get 2 and who get 2, that's 2, 4, 8. Who get 2 is 16. Who get 2 is 32. Who get 2 is 64, and so on. And as I said, you can certainly bring in more than 2, as I've done. I've brought in close to 100 people. And so if you got 100 people on your front line and they all get 2, that's 200. If they all earn a binary check today, that's 200 times 10. That is a pretty substantial amount of money. But the reality is you can get paid in depth, and the natural geometric progression can generate thousands of check matches every day. I mean, for every 1,000 check matches I get, that's another $10,000 a day, or $15,000, or $20,000, or $30,000 a day. And again, check match is unlimited. The binary income is capped. If you build to the top of the marketing plan, it's capped. You can't make more than $2,400 a day in the binary, although you can build multiple positions like I have and increase your binary income. But with check match, there is no cap. We also have a leadership infinity bonus. Again, that pays to infinity, up to 3%. Because the majority of the monies or Bitcoin that's being earned is paid out to the person that buys the mining contract. But a small percentage is paid out, and that small percentage, folks, really, really adds up. I mean, obviously it does. You heard me at the top of the hour talking about people that are earning hundreds of thousands a month, even millions of dollars a month. And, a company is only about 3.5 years old. But wow, what an incredible, life-changing opportunity this has been for so many people. As a matter of fact, in November of last year, I haven't gotten the numbers for December, but in November of 2017, just a short while ago, our company did over $200 million in sales in just 1 month.
Wow.
I mean, that's already made us a multi-billion-dollar company. there would not be people joining this company if this wasn't real, if this wasn't legit. I mean, for the first time in my career, I've actually gotten people involved with BitClub Network and Bitcoin mining that are billionaires. Now, they don't need the money, but you know what? They wouldn't be billionaires if they were stupid.
You know what, Michael?
They understand.
I'm going to make you take a breath because I've said something on this program, but I want to get it across to you, and you know a little bit about my background. I tell people here this is the first time in my life I've ever had a 100% deal. I've had some that were good. I had some that I've taken advantage of and done real well with, but I've never had a 100% sure deal, and that's what I truly in my heart of hearts believe this is.
I totally agree with you. You are absolutely 100% correct. You know, just to add to what you just said, I shared this with some people that I've known and worked with over the last 30 years since I first got involved in the direct sales industry. And the industry's been very good to me. I built to the top of every company I've joined, the top of the marketing plan. I built to the top of 10 companies. That accomplishment is something that will pay you a 7-figure annual income. But I've been the number one income earner in 5 of those 10 companies, and in the other 5, I've been in the top income earner circle. So the industry's been very good to me. That's why I said when I retired to Bali, I didn't need another project. But here's what I realized after my friends getting me to stop and look and listen, is this would be the biggest regret of my life if I didn't get involved. And so I got involved, and it's been the most fun and the most rewarding experience of my entire career. And I can only wish that for every single one of you. But to put things in perspective, for those of you that might have a sales background, particularly if it's been involved in the networking industry, is that even though you can earn a multiple 6-figure monthly income, which many people do, the majority don't. You know, I got to be honest about it. I mean, the majority of people that get involved in network marketing quit. But I shared with my friends who have been the top income earners, you know, some perspective that I'd like to leave with you, and then we'll take some questions and answers. I said, no matter how much money you're making today, no matter how much money you've made in the past, how much would you have made or would you be making right now if no one that joined your business ever quit? Well, when that sinks in, they realize, you know what, I've made far less than I would have made, because most people quit in the first 30 days, and the rest quit within 3 to 6 months. Usually way less than 10% actually stay involved. And you can understand why, because typically in traditional network marketing, they're selling someone else's product that they mark up ridiculously high, 10 to 12 times, to try to pay out in a compensation plan. So then you recruit people that have little or no sales experience, little or no business experience, little or no communication skills, or little or no personality or charisma. You know, no disrespect intended. But, you know, everyone would like to make passive residual income. And so it's usually easy for these promoters to get people involved, but then they don't support them and they don't train them. And besides the handicaps they start with, you know, if you don't get training and support, you know, you're probably not going to make it. But it's a very difficult, you know, path for people, because they're asked to sell a product from a company with no brand recognition, no brand loyalty, and a product that they can buy elsewhere for way less money. And then we wonder why people fail. And so that's why many people quit. I told them, I said, look, I have found something, and it's the only thing I've ever found where absolutely no one can get hurt. And I'll come back and explain myself, but also something where no one ever quits. I mean, why would you ever quit? You're going to get paid every day for the rest of your life, and you're going to get paid so well that you can't help yourself to talk about it. That's the dynamic we have going on here.
I challenge.
And the reality is,
I challenge people when they say, oh, I don't want to talk about it. I say, all right, well, I'm going to come put tape on your mouth then. Because I challenge you not to talk about it when you're sitting there and these things are happening to you. People want to share good things with other people that are close to them. Okay? I mean, it's just flat human nature.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, there's many other reasons that you can share with people that have had I don't care what measure of success they've had. I mean, like I was talking about a moment ago, the billionaires, why are they getting involved? Because they're smart people. They understand the value of Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining and the value proposition that they can't get anywhere else other than BitClub Network. It's just a no-brainer unless they're just so closed-minded and negative. And frankly, if you run across those people, go next. Move on.
Right.
Don't try to convince people. You know, there's so many people out there that are smart enough that if they start to learn about this, they're going to want to know more and more and more, and they're going to get involved. Sooner or later, they're going to get involved. I mean, I have people that I talked to, 2 years ago that didn't say yes then, that said, yes months or a year later. I still have people calling me every day saying, wow, I wish I'd have listened to you. I want to get involved. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. And like I said, it's easier today to really share this information with people now that it's being talked about in the media.
I think
as opposed to...
I liked what Joe Abel said. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I got to inject because you just keep going on. I liked what Joe Abel said on that last tape he put out in December. He said, don't recruit people who are bad people because they're just going to be bad people with money.
That is true. I learned a long time ago, money makes you more what you already are. If you're a bad person, it's going to make you worse.
How about
if you're
this?
a good person, you're going to be in a position to bless people.
How about this? Money doesn't give you character, it exposes it.
Exactly. I like that. That is very good. Very good. Very good. Well, anyway, if there's anything that you wanted me to talk about or address that I've overlooked, we can do that, now. If you bring it to my attention, or we can take some questions from our listeners.
The first thing I'd like to do, John and Kathie have been sitting back there, hadn't even had a peep in about an hour and 15 minutes. That's pretty unusual. So I'd like to get their
on every word.
I'd like to get their injection here.
I'm enjoying listening to you, Michael. It's a pleasure.
It is.
Have you on here.
I totally agree, and that I'd like to hear from you guys. But if anybody has a question you'd like to address to Michael, this guy's been in the trenches for a while. Obviously, he's got a pretty sterling background and comes from a position of knowing what he's talking about. So if any of you have any of those pesky questions, you can do straight Skype with PPN space hotline. You can call us Skype to Skype, I think. But you can sure call in on the phone line, which is 404-448-1420. So we'll put that invite out there. John and Kathie, observations?
Yes, I have a question. I do.
Well, we want to hear it.
We've been getting all kinds of questions. Is there any updates? If I don't ask this, I'm going to get in trouble. Is there any updates on the CoinPay that you might share?
I'm sorry, I didn't actually catch all of the question. I had another call coming in that muted you. Could you ask me again so that I know what I'm answering? I don't want to just talk to talk.
Yes, I would be in trouble if I didn't ask about any updates you might be privy to, especially CoinPay.
Yes, absolutely. Would love to share. We're all very, very excited about CoinPay. The reality is that when you fully comprehend this moment in time that we're living in and the opportunity that CoinPay represents, as great as Bitcoin mining and the other crypto mining is, we believe that in the next few years, CoinPay is going to be an even bigger opportunity for all of us to make money, both personally as well as through the network, and put us in a position as owners of CoinPay, because all of you that do decide to get involved in Bitcoin mining, when you buy a founder's mining share for $3,500 with BitClub Network, you actually are awarded shares in CoinPay. Now, for those of you that don't know, CoinPay is a global merchant platform, and there's not many of those. In fact, we're one of only 3. But we're so far superior in so many ways, and I will address, our business model and why we're superior and in a better position to truly capitalize on this emerging market as more and more businesses, no matter how big or how small, want to start accepting Bitcoin and other legitimate cryptocurrencies. But we had our first soft launch of CoinPay in Asia. We had 2 major events, the end of last year in December. One was in Seoul, Korea, and the other was in Tokyo, Japan. which were packed houses, standing room only. And those two countries do represent the largest amount of volume that's being generated in BitClub Network right now. The market in Japan, for those of you that don't know this, understand really what Bitcoin is, what it represents, and what a game-changing technology and opportunity is. Japan has the distinction of actually being one of the very first countries that recognized Bitcoin as legal tender. They've regulated and will continue to try to regulate, but actually recognize Bitcoin as legal tender, as money, as opposed to the United States. The United States and the IRS classify Bitcoin as property. So it's not treated as income, but if you do realize a profit, you should report the profit, and the IRS does expect you to pay capital gains tax on it, which is way better than paying the income tax. But, that's a story for another day. Well, the same thing is true of Korea. They've also legalized it. I'm sorry, you were going to say something?
I was going to say you and I need to have a conversation on the side about this regulatory and tax issue. I won't belabor the point here, but I'd like to talk to you at some point one-on-one on this personally, okay?
Sure, would love to do that.
Okay.
But,
I want to be on that conversation.
Okay, you and me and John.
Well, just let me know, because I'll be here stateside for a couple more weeks. So anytime that's convenient for you guys, just let me know.
We'll hook it up.
Send me a text or something.
We'll hook it up and coordinate it. Go ahead. I don't want to interrupt.
Okay.
That. I don't want to belabor that now,
No.
but it's real important. It's real important.
I understand. Well, if you say it's important, we need to have the call sooner rather than later.
Okay.
But because these countries were among the first to recognize, Bitcoin as legal tender, the adoptance rate of businesses accepting Bitcoin, individuals owning Bitcoin, has far exceeded the rest of the world. Now, the rest of the world will catch up, believe me. And countries like America and China and others will go so far beyond because of the sheer population mass in those countries. But the reality is that that's where we chose to really launch it, due to the number of members we have there, so that we could really put everything under pressure, truly stress test the system in case there was a glitch, although we've spent years and so many millions of dollars getting to where we're ready to launch it. It is ready to launch and will be available here very soon for the rest of the world. I don't have an actual official launch date for that, but we should be hearing about that here very, very soon. As far as the model is concerned, for those of you that aren't aware of this, unlike the other two global platforms who operate very much the way Visa and MasterCard do, or American Express, they're a middleman. And so if you were to choose to use those platforms, not only would you pay more, but you wouldn't see the money from your customer, your Bitcoin from the customer. It would go to them. They, in turn, would hold on to it for whatever period of time they feel justified holding it until they send you your share, because they're going to set, the fee structure, which they can raise. They can also raise the reserves if they classify you as a risk. They can also freeze your account, just like many merchants have experienced with MasterCard or Visa, and they can even close your account. So, they're in the driver's seat. That's not how we chose to set up CoinPay. We chose to model ourselves after Bitcoin and blockchain technology, in the sense that we're not a middleman. The customer's payment goes directly from the customer's wallet to the business owner's wallet. We don't touch it. So there's no waiting, there's no ridiculous fees or any of the risk associated with having someone else in control of your money. And the fees that are being charged, which are obviously much more favorable, is going to pay the network, both in terms of the setup as well as the ongoing transactions, which will increase day by day, and a percentage is also going to be paid through the network. Now, if you recall what I said when I first began speaking, we believe as good as the mining is, and of course that's our core competency, and we're going to continue to lead the world in mining of legitimate cryptocurrency, but we believe this could be far better. We believe that in a very short period of time, we will be the Visa, so to speak, but much bigger than Visa, because everyone can use Bitcoin or other legitimate cryptocurrencies. Everyone, for no money, can set up their wallets, whereas most people don't have credit cards or can even qualify for them. So truly, the market potential for CoinPay is so much bigger than Visa, although the market cap for Visa is almost $300 billion. Well, imagine if you owned a piece of Visa. Would that be worth something? Well, of course it would. You have the opportunity to own a piece of CoinPay if you're a member of BitClub Network.
It's an astonishing opportunity. I've never seen one like it. I mean, ever in my whole life. It fits every, if you could draw it up and say, man, I wish I had an opportunity to have this and this and this and this, check, 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 check. It's got them all.
It really does. But anyway, great question. Thank you for bringing that up, because I did fail to speak to that. But we got it in.
Okay.
Oh, everybody is just so excited.
Yeah, it's super. Go ahead, Kathie and John, and we got Robert, our daily co-host, taxi driver from Las Vegas, who I would announce is a new member, a new cooperative member of BitClub Network. You bought your first pool over the weekend because I helped you.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
I just can't get to it. That's all. That's all the conversation.
Yeah. So, John.
Am I up with somebody else?
Hold on just a second, Robert. Let me get John, because I know he's been sitting back there chomping and salivating too. John?
Oh, sorry. Okay. Well,
I really, Michael is really just such a wealth of, I really wanted as much of him on here as possible, because we really do need a third-party backup from somebody higher up in the company to add to other people when we go out and talk to them. But there are 4 points I wanted to make, and there'll be short points. One is this really is not an MLM company. So if you're talking to network kind of people, or people that have heard about network marketing before and don't like that word, we're really more of an affiliate style company. We do have a binary component, but that's not all of it. The second thing is proof of value increasing. Listen, 2.5 billion people on the planet do not even have a bank account. And this will work on a phone. It's designed to work on a phone. So we're going to be leaders in that area, bringing all those people on. And so we're talking about 300 million people with wallets now. Wait till you see what happens when it's 2.5 billion people that have wallets.
Yep.
And that's just the beginning. The other thing I wanted to bring up was, Michael, your analogy of the 10 times value. If right now Bitcoin is holding it to 10,000, a little over 10,000. So there's your 10 times value right there. If that just continues the rest of this year, we're looking at a $100,000 coin by the end of the year, or even higher. Final thing I want to bring up is pensions are failing all over the world and in the country. Massive amounts of people are not going to have jobs or income. This is a way for people to, well, where's all that?
Yikes! Where's that coming from? Who's getting the fire alert?
not me.
I'm sorry, guys.
Okay.
That was me.
Okay, no problem.
I put it into voicemail.
Okay, no problem.
Are you on fire?
Yeah, he's on fire.
The final thing I want to talk about is the pensions are failing. 50% or more of the income that's going to be coming into the cities and counties here is going to evaporate, and people are going to be destitute. This can save them.
It can.
This is a obvious thing for people to get into, where they'll be able to generate income coming in from Bitcoin, and it's just a word of mouth kind of a program. And one of the things too you haven't touched on is this is a friends and family company.
Yep.
Company was started by friends and family, and everybody who is here is some friend of a friend or a family member of a family member. So they continue that philosophy, which I think is amazing. And actually, Michael would know more about that than I would. I'm just saying a second hand. But really, that's all I needed to add. Michael, you're just adding so much to our understanding, especially those of us that have been here for a while, because while we've heard some of this before, what you did today was just phenomenal. I really enjoyed it.
I didn't know that it was halved at 210,000 blocks, so I picked up something pretty, important to me. Robert, before I turn it over to you, because I want to, I'll just say, Michael, you know who Cliff High is? You follow him at all?
The name seems familiar to me, but you'd have to give me some more
Well,
information.
I've
for
been
me to
following.
connect the
Don't
dots.
worry, I'm going to send you some of his stuff. You're going to want to know about him. I've been following him for 15 years since he first showed up. He has a way of mining words and extracting the emotional values and reading the results and being able to, at least in a general sense, predict the future. And he was the first one that started talking about this years ago. I wish I'd listened to him closer. Okay, but for the last couple of years, he's been dead right on every call he's made. Okay, and his latest calls, it was just in a video in December, is that next year Bitcoin, it will hit 100,000 this year. It may not end up at 100,000, but it will hit 100,000. Next year it will hit 350,000, and the year after 1.5 million, and that's coming from Cliff High. Robert, give us your question, comment, or observation.
Yeah. I finally bought a position in Bitcoin. I just can't get to it now because I got a login problem, but I'll talk with probably John and Kath on the side about that issue. But Michael, I tip my hat to you, man. Your layout of the product was just amazing. It was like sitting in a classroom at a university, but not near as boring. It was really good, and I need to go back over it several times to grasp all the concepts you threw out. But one thing you said that made my ears twitch, and I think I know the answer. You said earlier that anyone who gets into the BitClub network cannot get hurt. Kind of speak on that a minute or two and expound on that concept, if you will.
Well, one of the ways that I've experienced over the years that people get hurt is they'll join a company, a business opportunity, invest hard-earned money to buy product that they then find impossible or nearly impossible to sell to even get the money back. And unfortunately, they keep buying that product every month because of their auto ship requirement to qualify for a check they don't have and eventually realize they're never going to have. And so at some point you have to cut your losses. That's what I call getting hurt. And even if the money isn't an issue, the other issue is if they put their time in, I can replace your money. I can't replace your time.
Absolutely.
And if they go out there and they put their credibility on the line, their reputation on the line, only to have that, blow up in their face, or just fail to work. I'll leave it just failed to work the way that they expected it to. That can be more than just embarrassing. That can actually be damaging to one's reputation. And with BitClub Network, even if you keep it a secret and you never tell anyone, you don't share it with a soul, you've made an investment that after the first 30 days, because it takes 30 days to get the equipment registered to your account and online and mining for you. And so on the 31st day, you'll receive your first Bitcoin reward. And that will continue every day for the rest of your life. You never have to do anything. You don't have to pay a monthly fee, an annual fee, nothing. It's just going to be going into your account. And so over time, obviously, first you recoup that original investment. And that doesn't take very long when you see the price of Bitcoin going up and up and up. And so eventually you get to the point where you've earned as many Bitcoin as it originally took to even buy that position. And if a person can't afford to get started with the full founder share, although I encourage everyone to, because only the full founder share gets the CoinPay shares we were talking about earlier. But even if they have to start with 500 and buy a partial pool, they can then buy another pool and another pool until they eventually become founders. And so anyone can really start regardless of what their circumstances are, and they're going to get paid without ever telling or talking to anyone, because some people, for whatever reason, are shy, and they may not want to do that, or certainly until they have proof positive that what they believe in is actually a fact of life. But that takes no time at all with BitClub Network, with the way things are set up and working. So with that being said, how could you get hurt? If you're going to get your money back and you never have to come out of pocket a dime. Now, here's what happens, and I'm just speaking from experience. Even if someone buys a partial share or even just one founder share, when they see how this is working and what the return on their original investment is, they do buy other shares. I mean, even myself, I started out with 3, And within my first month, after I continued to educate myself, I bought another 7. And then I've continued to buy every month because the Bitcoin that I've accumulated is not going to grow. It's not going to multiply. But the ones that I invest in mining are growing and multiplying. And so that's why I own so many mining shares. I mean, people sometimes ask me, well, how many have you got? And they can't believe how many I've got. But, I stopped really trying to talk about that because I don't want anyone to compare themselves to me. Again, whatever you're in a position, however you're in a position to get started, the key is get started. You can always increase when you see for a fact that all of this is for real. And that's why I tell people, look, don't take my word for anything. Let's document this for you. Let me give you the proof.
Michael, could you go into a few more of the updates on, I think we got a pretty big change coming February 1st as we convert over to Bitcoin Cash. I personally would like to know if have any insight into the debit card into our accounts that supposedly is scheduled to come this year and things like that, because those are real important, features. You sell features and benefits, not things, and those are really important features to people.
Yeah, absolutely. We may not have enough time for me to fully explain because most people may not be aware of what happened August 1st. That's when Bitcoin Cash was created. It was created as a result of the majority of the mining pools meeting in New York and deciding to adopt new protocols in regards to segregated witness, which we refer to as SegWit. Because with the number of transactions that kept increasing and have continued to increase, it was creating scalability issues, meaning that it was taking longer to confirm transactions, and also we were seeing an increase in transaction costs. And so obviously, understanding what we have and how it's going to continue to grow, we had to have a situation whereby that could be addressed properly. Unfortunately, SegWit, overpromised, underdelivered. And so as a result, we as a company recognize that as fast as we're growing, we cannot afford to have any scalability issues of our own. And when new people are getting started, particularly new people, I don't worry about it. I mean, when I buy a new mining contract, I don't care how long it takes for me to see the credit show up in my back office, because I understand that it's taking longer to pay with Bitcoin BTC. And if you're new, though, and maybe you're just a little nervous, there's some anxiety, some fear, some doubt, and it's not immediate or automatic, then what does that do? It just throws fuel on the fire, and your anxiety may become panic. People can develop a severe case of paranoia. And that's the last thing we want to have happen when we're so legitimate. Now, most people do believe in their friends who have vouched for it and documented for it, but nonetheless, that was becoming an issue because it was taking longer and longer for the transactions with BTC to confirm. Also, the price, the transaction cost, which has nothing to do with BitClub Network, but I've heard of people who paid their $99 one-time lifetime membership fee. That $99, they had to pay $8, $9, $10, even $12 or more in transaction fee.
Yep.
Well, that doesn't go over so well. Even though BitClub Network has no control over that, if you're brand new getting started and you get charged, a transaction fee that's exorbitant like that. Now, understand there's a sliding scale. It doesn't cost much more to send 1,000 as it does $99. But they're not sending 1,000, although some people may be buying $1,000 pool or a $3,500 pool. So it's not really an issue, but it is an issue on the 99. So here's our solution. Because time has come and gone since August 1st, Bitcoin Cash, which was a fork off of the original blockchain. So both Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin BTC are still mining Bitcoin using the original blockchain. It's just that Bitcoin Cash went off, and they're using, a little different protocols. And I don't want to get too technical here and put anybody to sleep or confuse anybody, but it's just a different set, a different standard. And because less people are using Bitcoin Cash, The transaction time is like it used to be with Bitcoin years ago, just lightning fast. Also, the transaction fees are fractions, pennies. And so we have the faith and confidence in Bitcoin Cash now to starting in February to allow people to actually pay for their memberships and their mining contracts with Bitcoin Cash. And that eliminates any bottleneck. Now, if you prefer Bitcoin BTC, you can immediately convert your Bitcoin Cash as you earn it into BTC if you're building a team and getting paid in Bitcoin Cash. So Bitcoin Cash in, Bitcoin Cash out, but if you don't want Bitcoin Cash, you can convert it. And you'll be able to convert it also eventually to other coins, like maybe Ethereum. If you're a fan of Ethereum and you want to convert your Bitcoin Cash into Ethereum, that'll all be done seamlessly for you at your direction, in your back office. Now, for me, I have a lot of Bitcoin Cash. I also have a lot of BTC in Ethereum and other legitimate crypto coins. So I have no problem getting paid in Bitcoin Cash because we will probably see a much larger multiple on Bitcoin Cash this year than what we're going to see with BTC. They're both going to go up, but I think the multiple, and most people think the multiple on Bitcoin Cash is going to go up. So, let's just say hypothetically that BTC goes up by a multiple of 7 or 8, but Bitcoin Cash goes up by a multiple of 12 to 15. At the end of 12 months, where are you going to be setting as far as the highest and best return for your Bitcoin?
Right.
With Bitcoin Cash or BTC. Now, I don't have a crystal ball, so there's no way that we know for absolute certainty which may outperform the other, and there are other solutions that are soon to be implemented. If you've heard anything about the Lightning Network and so forth, it's going to address the BTC scalability issues, because obviously this whole thing has grown faster than anyone ever imagined it would, and it's just gathering more and more momentum all the time. So these things have to be dealt with and addressed, and believe me, they are being. So I have absolute confidence holding either one, more confidence holding BTC and Bitcoin Cash than any other currency, including Ethereum, because Ethereum still hasn't run the gauntlet. BTC, Bitcoin, has run the gauntlet over the last 9 years and passed the test with flying colors. Even though I am a believer and advocate and hold Ethereum, the reality is that if I had to choose, I would choose Bitcoin hands down over Ethereum or any other cryptocurrency. So for someone just getting started out, that's what I recommend they focus on first. And then as their net worth increases, put some eggs in some other baskets.
My feeling is that Bitcoin will be an investment type vehicle, and all the other coins will be the commercial type vehicles, and the coins that are going to be used in commerce are the ones that the multitudes are going to want. I think that's my kind of feeling on it. I feel like any of them that are legitimate, you can't lose. But the ability to seamlessly in the back office exchange those things out is going to be the other thing I wanted to bring up that's super important, especially to a lot of our audience, because all the patriot-minded people are so paranoid because of what we've been having to deal with, okay? And you can send funds to anybody in the world instantly, privately, for no fee, if they're also a member of BitClub Network. Now, that's an important feature right there, real important.
It is. It certainly is.
So, Robert, you got a follow-up? He must have had to take a fare. John, do you have a follow-up? We got looks like about 7 minutes or 9 minutes, Michael. So if John doesn't have a follow-up and Kathie doesn't, is there anything that you have on a usual kind of wrap-up?
Well, let me speak just for a moment, because a lot of people are asking me, and maybe some of your listeners are wondering, or they will eventually wonder and ask the question, what about this ICO? What about that ICO? Which is the acronym for initial coin offering, because I mentioned there's so many fake coins out there. Well, fortunately, the SEC has stepped up, as well as the China government has stepped up, requiring registration now on the part of these ICOs, because they're springing up everywhere. And the reality is, probably in the ballpark of 99 point something percent are fake scams. And that's why, because of the sheer plethora of ICOs that are in the market today, they've had to regulate that and treat it as a security. So any ICO now has to register security. Doesn't mean they still won't try to defraud people or overpromise and underdeliver or fail, just as if you were to invest money into any IPO. If you read the private placement memorandum, they basically tell you you're going to lose your money. But even worse than an IPO are these ICOs, because they have scammed so many people out of their money. And it comes back to what I was just saying a moment ago. Why would you even risk something that's an unknown quantity, especially if it's undocumented, unverified? Because if people are not confined or restricted to tell the truth, they're going to embellish and tell you the most unbelievable, fantastic story. And if you want to live in the land of mermaids and fairies and unicorns, then, you can. I choose not to. But unfortunately, a lot of people believe stuff because maybe sometimes it's just the greed factor that blinds them. But, if it sounds too good to be true, my mama taught me it usually is. Now, what we've talked about here today, hey, it does sound too good to be true to someone that doesn't know. But this is one of those times where you do your due diligence. You'll find out that I haven't exaggerated anything. If anything, I've understated and underpromised everything. So verify and document. I said that at the start of the show, and I'm saying again as we wrap things up. Just be careful. Stay away from these startups and these wild stories. I mean, here's another example. Just recently, several companies have been shut down by the regulators, and they were basically promising people unrealistic returns. They claimed they were trading Bitcoin and that you could get 1% a day. Well, first of all, it's illegal to guarantee any return. I talked about that earlier in the show. And they literally, for the longest time, on their website stated they guaranteed 1% a day. Some guarantee even more. Well, first of all, that is black and white illegal. So what does that tell you? It should be a flashing neon sign. Scam, Ponzi. Stay away from that. And I tried to reason with people and explain to them why the math didn't work, how the math couldn't work, and the reality with the number of people that rushed into that and the number of accounts and the amount of Bitcoin they had. I told people, look, even though they can't supply you documentation unless it's fabricated and can't be verified, the reality is you can go on yourself, because if they're really trading that much Bitcoin, it's going to be on the radar. It'll be on the screen. They're going to have a monopoly and so much leverage, they could control the price. But that never happened because they never traded a single Bitcoin or any other coin for that matter. And so people got scammed out of that, and they got shut down. Another one that recently got shut down that came out of Korea, which a lot of scams come out of Korea. And I told people, I said, look, first of all, the guys behind this, do your due diligence. They've already in the past ran two digital coin scams and scammed people out of millions of dollars. And I believe a leopard doesn't lose its spots. So they're probably scamming you here because they were claiming to be mining Ethereum. Well, Ethereum has its own blockchain. And if they were, you could see what they're mining, that they claim to be mining, but you couldn't. And so people went back and wanted to know why they weren't on the Ethereum blockchain. And they said, oh, well, we're mining under a different name. Hello? Why would they be doing that? I mean, if you're building a brand and you're legitimate, why aren't you proud of who you are and what you represent? Why can't you find it on the blockchain? Like you can find with BitClub, you can go all the way back to the very beginning and see every coin we've mined since we started. It is totally 100% transparent. They never showed up. Unfortunately, they scammed people out of over $250 million. Now, fortunately, this time the authorities did catch up with them, and they arrested them, and they're in jail right now.
Oh, fantastic.
Thank God.
Unfortunately, the name of the company, I don't like to name names of companies because, I don't need to tear down someone else to build us up. We speak in for what's real and legitimate. I just try to educate people so they can ask the right questions and determine for themselves what is a scam and what's legitimate.
Well, you said something on the first time you were on, the only other time you've been on, that I've used a number of times that's been a real big advantage for me. And that was, you said, if you can't go online and see your coin being mined, red flag, red flag.
Absolutely. That's why we can talk to people about BitClub Network without any hesitation or any reservation because it's real. And, I encourage people really more for not only their peace of mind, but also to be able to talk to people with absolute conviction, because you know what you're talking about, to take the time to educate themselves and document all of this.
We got about 2 minutes left, Michael. I want to sincerely thank you from the bottom of my heart for making time to share with us today. I've asked John on the side if you and I and he could have a conversation this afternoon. I'll let you two see if you can hook that up. It's very exciting. The audience hears us talk about it. They hear us on Mondays come in here and talk about it. But to have you at your level of experience and involvement at this stage, and your total life experience that you bring to the table for credibility, is an awful lot for people to chew on. I want to thank you a lot for joining us. And Michael, we'll talk to you soon. John and Kathie, didn't hear much out of you, but love you, and we'll talk to you soon. And we'll be back tomorrow.
Get the website in, right?